Mark, what kind of sense do you have on whether or not this proposal is going to eventually get through or not, or where it is?
So I assume you're talking about the tush push,
push,
the
yeah.
word out. I actually think it ended up in a good place. We spoke on behalf of it, had a good discussion, and so it was tabled. And really, what we talked about was going back to the language that we had before in the league, up until I think 2005 was when the change was made. So that would basically prohibit pushing the runner.
Mark, how much did you work with Brian and Matt on this, or was this more you, more them to come up with this?
Yeah, we were all involved. I mean, obviously, and Matt had to present it to the coaches, but we also, worked with the league office, and it's. I think they had done it. So the competition committee was pretty strongly in favor of it as well.
Yeah.
For us, the two main priorities were, number one was safety, and in terms of safety, there haven't been that many plays, so there wasn't a lot of injury data, but it was a very small sample size. And I was really moved by Alan Sills, the chief medical officer. He felt very strongly that it was just a question of when there'd be a catastrophic injury with this.
All right. When you say you worked with the league office, did they sort of ask you guys to draft this, or?
We're always in touch with each other. Yeah. So that was it, and then pace of play was the other thing. And I, maybe it's because I'm not a former commander, I'm a former Redskin, but the NFC Championship game was, players jumping over the line, and I don't think it was it's good for the game. The two other thing, and then it slows down the game with the penalties, and the other two things that we relied on were, from an equity standpoint, that we prohibit on field goals and extra points from pushing. The defense can't push forward, but then on offense we're allowing it. So that was a little bit of an issue, and just the style of the play. I don't. It's really more a rugby play than a football play.
So it had nothing to do with the fact that the Eagles ran it, because you guys ran it.
No, well, yeah, I
success
pointed
of
out
it,
we, and we kind of changed it. Obviously, Tucker was doing, but we were 5 for 5.
Yeah.
So it's not really about one team being successful, but I would anticipate if it's not banned, you're going to see more and more teams do it.
How do you forecast what it could be safety-wise down the road if you don't have much sample size now?
Yeah, well, that's why we have a chief medical officer who does.
Right.
I mean, really looking at, and I believe Jason Kelsey has made public comments about, he's glad that he's not involved in the play anymore because he felt it was pretty dangerous. But and Dr. Sills can speak for himself, but the angle of it and the nature and the makeup of the play really does lend itself to. And we have a former center here that we can actually rely on. It puts.
I'm perfectly normal.
But the centers and the people right in the middle of it, you've got that much force on both sides. It is just a question. I think he is right. I think a lot of people really were persuaded by, but obviously there's people that think it's a safe play and no different than a quarterback sneak.
So what's next? Do you expect this to come up for?
It'll come. It'll come up at the May meeting, and they'll go back and basically take the language that used to be in it, and then I think there'll be some studies done, or just look at some of the history of some of the injuries.
So you have a feel that eventually there will be a change made to this play?
I think so. We'll see. I think it'll be probably still be a good discussion, and I think you need 3/4 of it.
At this time last year, you said it was down to you guys and the Browns to go to Brazil. Do you have an idea of whether you're going to Ireland or not?
No, not at this point. No.
I know there's May meetings, there's more meetings, but this is your last annual league meeting.
Sure.
Was it like for you? Did they? I know Jed York told me earlier they thought they were going to recognize you in some way. Did they do anything?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
No, it's a little emotional thinking, but and Ed was in every session except the last one, and it was one per club, and I said, Ed, you should take this, and he said, no, this is your last one. So I think he's, obviously he'll do very well, and he's been sensitive, that he wants to make the transition as smooth as possible.
This is probably a loaded question, but what has it meant to you to be in this role for the last almost 2 decades?
No, I think well, I'm very fortunate. I'm blessed. Yeah, it's my wife. I say I'm an owner without the money, but it's a phoner is what she calls it. But it's no, it's I think it's one of the very best jobs in all professional sports, and we have a great structure. We've had success, and hopefully, and I'm very confident that it'll continue. And that's, I look at it. Bob Harlan left it in great shape for me, and hopefully I'm doing the same for Ed, and hopefully Ed will have a 18-year run like Bob and I did.
How much longer could you do it if they weren't making you retire?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I'm 70. I knew the rule. I'm not quite 70. I knew the rule when I took the job, but it was always way down the road. But it does come quickly. But I think it's a good sign that time goes fast. It means I think you're enjoying your work, and that's the other thing. And Larry and Wes know this. There's so many good people in the organization that I think we all have a sense that we're very, very fortunate to be working for such a unique organization.
A year from now, you'll have some time to reflect. What memories are you going to take from these past couple decades of your time in this role?
Yeah, I think obviously the success, I'd say the consistent success on the field. The Super Bowl, obviously, there was a lot of talk in the last session about only one team kind of can win it all, and but striving for it is, and probably the people. Thinking back, Pete Platten, who was instrumental in hiring me, and people on the executive committee that I've worked with, and then within the organization, obviously Ed has risen to the top, but an awful lot of good people, and been very, very fortunate.
Where are you going to live?
We'll probably split our time between, we live in De Pere, and then we got a place up in Door County. You may not have heard, I own a golf course, so I'll be a little more involved in that.
You're going to stay in Wisconsin then, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
We all expect free green.
Right, well, it may be reduced. We'll see.
Mark, can I hit you with one more football-related question?
Sure.
The kickoff, I mean, now that being made permanent, also going out to 35, just how do you feel about that and kind of what that's going to do?
Yeah, no, I think it was, I think that's the right move. It was a one year, and we looked at it, and it had the change that we thought. And I think, moving the touchback to the 35, you'll see more teams kick the ball a little higher, and should have quite a few more returns. And the good news is that it's now as safe as the plays from scrimmage on passing and running. So it's kind of had the effect, and it is a dynamic kickoff. Yeah.
Last year at this time, if I remember right, you were a little concerned about unintended consequences on that play. Did there turn out to be any? Or?
No, there hasn't been. I think that's why, that's why we did it as a one-year trial. And I think that's permanent now. So it'll be. Yeah, the thing I don't think we addressed the onside kick. So I think it's staying that you have to declare it, and you can only do it in the fourth quarter. I think there were some. Yeah, I don't know why you can't do it in the third quarter if you're way behind.
If you declare, what would be the reason for not doing it if you want to do it in the second
Anytime
quarter?
you want it.
Yeah.
Because the onside kick's more dangerous than the regular. I think that's the concern. Yeah.
Your time as president is obviously going out in the big way with the draft.
Sure.
Where things stand right now, what needs to be done to prepare Green Bay in the next 3.5 weeks?
Well, there's still a lot to do, but it's a league's event, and this isn't their first rodeo. They've done quite a few, and I think we feel pretty good about it. We had Ed and I had a call with the league office, just kind of going through some last-minute things, and but yeah, I mean, I think the number of league employees that are going to be coming into Green Bay over the next few weeks is pretty astounding. But yeah, we're really excited about it. and you can feel, I'm sure you're all in the community, you can feel it. I mean, people are talking about it. I think Press Gazette has a daily article on, what's, all different aspects of the draft, but it'll be like a week-long commercial for Green Bay and Wisconsin, and I think some of the things that we've done to really make it unique to Green Bay, I think people will really appreciate in Wisconsin.
In terms of being unique to Green Bay, the draft happens every year, but this is going to be different than any other situation with the size of the city and all the challenges.
Yeah.
What have been the biggest challenges of getting to this point now of getting ready?
Well, weather's something you can't control, but that's the reality. I think the size of the market, the hotel rooms, it'll be different, but people will be traveling from farther distances. But I think obviously the league, when they selected us, knew that. I think the positive side of it is Lambeau Field is iconic, and I know there's probably awful lot of NFL fans across the country that have never been to Lambeau Field that will come to the draft. We anticipate, I think, 250,000 people over the 3 days of the draft.
Mark, how do you feel about just the organization from a football perspective? Brian said in January, it's time to start competing for championships.
Sure.
What do you think of where you guys are at in that regard?
Yeah, no, I have a lot of confidence, obviously, in Brian and Matt and Russ Ball, the leadership there, and I know Ed. Ed's been involved in the meetings as well. I mean, we're obviously, I think we're set up to win. I think we'll do well. It was a disappointing end of the year here. It's funny, 2 years in a row we made the playoffs, but the way this 2 years ago when we got in, won a game, and we had fewer wins in the regular season, but I ended up feeling better about this. But it's a reality of the NFL. It's hard to win, and I think the fact that we've been able to win on such a consistent basis speaks well to the people that we have in place at the key positions. But I think I have a lot of confidence in Brian, Matt, and Russ, and I know Ed will work well with them.
This is a long way off, obviously, because Ed, doesn't take over. But what do you think are Ed's strengths going into this job, and why do you think he's the right guy for it?
Well, he's been in the position 12 years. He's got a great football background. Extremely intelligent. Is respected throughout the building and across the league. And he's been been involved in almost every aspect of our organization. So it's not going to be a difficult transition for him.
What made you hire him? 12, 13 years ago, or whatever it was. Why did you hire him?
Well, I mean, it's kind of the same. He's had great experience. And obviously, kind of grew up around it with his father being president of two different NFL teams, and he came very highly recommended by the league office, for his time there.
Aside from the fired Rodgers thing in 2008,
yeah.
What was the toughest storm you had to weather? Was it draft and love? Was it when Rodgers
COVID was pretty. Yeah. Well, and that was in COVID, because I remember we were all at home when got a call that we're going to be trading up and drafting a quarterback.
And I meant more personally, where like you're feeling the heat from fans, and where you've had to stand behind your general manager and coach and your decision making and all that stuff.
Yeah. Fortunately, that hasn't been too many times. I mean, we have had consistent success. But the bar is obviously high, and in Green Bay, it's about winning championships. But I mean, Brian's been so great to work with, and that with Ted, with the health issues, that was a difficult time. Wanting to make sure that did right by him, but also protecting the organization. He obviously did great things for an awful lot of people, and making the change with Mike McCarthy, that was difficult. I don't know if those are kind of things. Yeah. But when you're in, whether when I was an athletic director, or by the way, I should say I'm very glad I'm not in college athletics anymore. But as an AD and in the position I'm in now, those are some of the tough decisions you have to make. And you work closely with people, and but I think you also have to have the ability to kind of step back and take a broader perspective and make sure you're doing the right thing and giving your team and the organization the chance to be successful.
You guys obviously have been fortunate to have great quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I don't know how many teams have had to go through the transition. When you went through it with Aaron, maybe it was easier because you went through it with Brett, but like it seemed like it was just smoother. And I'm wondering if during that time you look back at that summer of '08 and say, well, we shouldn't have hired Ari Fleischer, or we shouldn't have done this, or we shouldn't. You know what I mean? Like, did that help? Was there lessons learned?
Yeah, I think you always reflect back on it, but I don't think, and this is a credit to our GM, it's not luck that we have had 3 good quarterbacks. It's, and I think you've probably heard me say it. The old saying in the league: the best time to draft a quarterback is when you don't need one. And I give Ted and Brian the credit of having the conviction to. I think particularly when we drafted, well, both of them. When you got a Pro Bowl, All Pro quarterback, and you draft his replacement, that's difficult. But it certainly is. I think that set us up for long-term success.
A couple more guys. Do you think you've started something there? You think the league is starting to change its thinking? Do you ever hear owners talking about that?
No, and because it's really hard.
Atlanta did it, right?
Yeah, but it is hard. It's hard to draft somebody high and not play them right away. I think both. Yeah, well, that didn't play till their 3rd years.
What's the hardest part about that?
I think just having the patience and being willing to wait, and that's quarterbacks in our league have a lot of influence. I would say that. So that's sometimes difficult. But they're obviously probably, and this is probably the most important position in terms of determining team success in all professional sports. So that's important.
That's why they have the influence.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously, Jordan's still young, but really been just impressed with the way he's handled himself. So I'm optimistic that the future is bright for him. I think, this year, obviously, when you're dealing with the injuries that he did and to be able to fight through and still play at a fairly high level was, in my mind, was pretty impressive.